I hate to tell you this, I feel for you, but this feels good to me.
Yes, sir.
I spent yesterday in North Carolina, and I'm telling you, it is cool in New York. Besides that, the El Dorado, would you hear me? This brother's big, pretty, yellow El Dorado that he drove all the way from New Jersey down there with no problems, got so hot while we were riding in it, out in the middle of nowhere, the radiator exploded. So I had to stand out, and see my tan? I stood out in the sun for about 2 hours. Highway patrolman came up and turned his light on and honked his horn and motioned for me. I said, I know I couldn't have done no wrong just standing here. I must have looked pitiful. He had me get in his car with the air conditioning and sit there till the brother got back, you know. It is, believe me when I tell you, this is cool weather. You won't hear me complain about the heat, all right? Because that thing is, I mean, when you drive down the highway, you see the grass burnt, the crops burnt, corn just drooping brown, hanging on the ground. I mean, that place is an oven. So I'm thankful to Allah for more reasons than one to be right back here with you today. And we've got a few problems here that need looking at. It's in New York City, but as Omar, my son, who I'm so proud of, pointed out to you, it's all over the world. But, you know, right here in New York City, some startling things have happened just in the past couple of days that are very disheartening to black people who love black people. Now, you had a young black boy with a problem who allegedly shot a policeman the other day. Here comes the police commissioner, Benjamin Ward, coming out making a public statement about he thinks that anybody shoots a policeman ought to be executed regardless of their age, and he'd be glad to pull the switch. Those are his exact words, and I'd be glad to pull the switch. That's what he said. Well, I'm telling you, Ben Ward turned my stomach. He'll make me stop eating rice. Every time I see rice, I think about Uncle Ben. I mean, if it took the shooting of a white cop to get this Negro upset, I want to know where has Ben been? Where has Ben been while his mad white policemen are gunning down a black grandmother, a sick, old, helpless black guy? Where has Ben been? Where has Ben been when our scholars, our brightest minds, are gunned down by silly, white, death-dealing rookie policemen? Shot down in cold-blooded murder. Where has Ben been? He better not ever just try out an electric chair for size and have me standing near the switch. He'll see how quick a switch can be pulled. Then you got a group of homeless people not far from here that have been placed in a shelter. Here comes some Christian preachers, so-called men of the cloth, men of, quote, God, end of quote, who want those people put out. They already don't have nowhere to stay. They're placed in a shelter. They want them put out of the shelter. What kind of God-sent men are these? What kind of shepherds are these that want to dispossess the sheep? What God do they represent who not only don't feed the hungry, don't clothe the naked, but want to put the homeless out of doors? What kind of leadership is that? So look at it. You look at the politicians. You look at the law enforcement. You look at the religious leaders. Nobody to comfort us. We need a comforter. We feel pain. We are distraught. We need a comforter. But the scripture promised us a comforter. And that's my subject today, brothers and sisters. My subject today that I want all of you to study. I want you to study this particular subject, not study what I say, But take what I say and study deeper into this subject. My subject today is Farrakhan the Comforter. We got a comforter. This is what Omar was talking about. We got a comforter, and the very people who condemn the comforter have lent us no comfort. In fact, they have heaped more ailments on our ailments. Instead of working on the cure, they're part of the disease. But we have a comforter today. Minister Farrakhan is our comforter. He fits right into the role that was laid out in prophecy. As I mentioned to you last week, you got folks who just, every time they flinch, every time he says anything in comparison to the life of Jesus. We want to talk about Jesus. Since according to the Bible, it was Jesus who promised to send us a comforter. Now, if these folks who are running around here with crosses this long hanging around their necks and collars turned backwards like their brains are trying to put people outdoors that are already outdoors, we know that ain't what Jesus sent us. We want to know, where is the comforter that Jesus promised us? We know Jesus didn't lie. Jesus was a righteous man. Jesus didn't lie. Jesus would never tell a lie. So if Jesus promised us a comforter, then we have to look for a comforter that Jesus sent us. He said, it is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the comforter will not come to you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. That's a deep, deep statement. All of it. Jesus is saying several things in one little statement. Look what he says. The first thing he says is, it is expedient for you that I go away. He didn't say, I got to go away for me. He said, I got to go away for you. Long as I stay here with you, something you need is not going to happen. The only way it'll happen is that I get out of the way. But look what he said. But if I depart, I will send him to you. Now check this. Here's Jesus in the midst of the people, knowing what has to be done, but he can't do it. Somebody else has to do it, and they can't do it as long as he's there. Yet, if he goes away, they can't do it unless he sends them to do it. Tell them how to do it, and give them the power to do it. That's mean, ain't it? You say, well, that ain't so mean, you know. If we examine it a little deeper, it's mean. If that was Jesus 2,000 years ago, where's the comforter? I mean, what's he riding in? Take 2,000 years to get here. I mean, he could have walked here from anywhere in that amount of time. If that's Jesus of 2,000 years ago. But now, we contend that could not have been Jesus 2,000 years ago. Jesus, according to the Holy Quran, did not die on the cross. According to the Holy Quran, Jesus beat death. He defeated death. And even the Bible bears witness that Jesus actually conquered death. You don't conquer death if you surrender to death. If death defeats you, you have not conquered it. So there's a hint in the Bible that Jesus did not die on the cross. So now, even though he beat death, it didn't mean that he could beat it forever. He cheated it. He got away from it. He beat the plot of the Jews to kill him. But he died a natural death later on. He had to. All men born of woman will die. Now, the Bible bears witness to that. You know, some of you got that spookiness. Ain't nothing in the Bible ever tell you nobody's coming back. Nothing. Now, we know somebody get up in front of you and shout and foam at the mouth and make you jump over and tell you a lie, but find it in the book. I dare you. Find it in your book. Read it from Genesis to Revelation. I defy you to find any place tell you coming back anywhere. But I can find it in there for you where it says, as a cloud is consumed and vanishes away, so he that goes down to the grave comes up no more. I can find that for you in any version of the Bible you read. Okay? All right. So then, if that Jesus had to finally die, he couldn't be the one speaking in the book of John. It had to refer to another Jesus who would have the power after he defeated death to send someone to do the job that he could not do while he was there. All right. Folks say, well, but Farrakhan takes a lot upon himself. He gets to talking about what he's doing and what Elijah Muhammad did and start talking about Jesus. And then you got some so-called Orthodox Muslims or Muslims of various sects who run around saying, well, every now and then I hear that Farrakhan brother, he compares him, he talks like he's Muhammad in the Quran. He comparing himself with the prophet. He's never said he was Muhammad. He's never said he was Jesus. He never said that. Right. But he said something else. And he's walking in good shoes when he says it. Eh? When Moses got his mission, Moses was worried because he knew the kind of people he was going to. Don't care how good the truth was that he brought that hard-hearted, stiff-necked, rebellious people. He know the first thing they want to know is, well, yeah, that's good, Moses, but where you get that from? Who sent you? I mean, what makes you able to tell us? I mean, who sent you to tell us this? So he says to God, according to the Bible. Moses said to God, said, Lord, when I go to them, they're going to want to know who sent me. He says, I am that I am. Moses said, yeah, but hey, boss, that don't tell me nothing. I mean, what guy? He said, that's all you need. I am. I know who I am. You know who I am. They don't have to know who I am. Tell them, look at what you do. If they can't figure out who sent you by the works you do, then they don't deserve to know. When Jesus came on the scene, John the Baptist, who might have been a little bit jealous, I'm not going to say he was, but you just think about it for a little while. He's been the big man. He's been the one baptizing everybody and making everybody feel that he is the representative of God, and everybody looks to him as the representative of God. But he knows that there's another one coming, and he's even teaching them of another one coming. And when Jesus appears, John can see so clearly what Jesus is doing. John knows who he is, but John's not ready to accept it. So instead of John coming to Jesus, though he baptized Jesus himself, John didn't come to Jesus and say, look, are you who I think you are? No. It said John sent his followers. He had taught his followers what to look for. Then he sent his followers and told them, go and question this man. And they went and questioned Jesus and said, our leader, John, told us to come and ask you one question. Is this the one? Or should we look for another? Now, why didn't Jesus tell him, say, well, go tell him I'm the one? No. Look what Jesus told him. No, don't go tell him whether I'm the one or whether I'm not the one. I don't want to tell him something that he can believe me or disbelieve me. If I say I'm the one, he can take it or he can reject it. But I'm going to give you something he can't reject. You've been hanging around with me. I've been watching you. Go back and tell him what you saw. He said, go back and tell him you saw the eyes of the blind being opened. Go tell him you saw the ears of the deaf being opened. Go tell him how you saw the dumb speak and the lame walk. Go tell him that. That's all you have to tell him. You don't have to tell him nothing about who I am. We say the same thing today about Minister Farrakhan. Folks want to say, well, does he call himself a prophet? Well, is he another messenger? Well, is he this? Is he that? He's our brother. And he's doing a job. And if you want to know how to regard Minister Farrakhan, check his works. Look at what he does, and you'll know who he is. You want to know who the man he represents is? Look at his works. Look what he has produced, and look at the work of the man he has produced. And it goes all the way back to the one who sent him. You want to know who Master Farad Muhammad is? You want to know who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is? Watch Minister Farrakhan. He's the comforter. We haven't gotten off our subject. We're on our subject. He is the comforter that was promised to us by a man against whom a death plot was hatched. There were those in his own family who intended to kill him, just as though there were relatives, blood relatives of Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago who tried to kill him. And he escaped their death plot and put somebody else in his place. Members of his own family plotted to kill the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they thought they had succeeded because they buried a body that they say is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We say to those who say that, you lie a lot. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is making his presence felt, and he will be making it even more vividly seen as a little short time goes by. We're not even arguing with nobody about that. You know, you go to the Library of Congress and you pick up the books that show all of the great folks, the leaders who have died, and you don't find the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in there. I mean, that's a matter of record. All the TV networks and everybody, they get those books. They got them. I've been in the networks and seen their files. Okay? Go to the, as I say, the Congressional Library, even go to the New York Public Library. There's a book right in there that's got all of the famous people that died during that time span. They got Sister Clara Muhammad in there. They got Malcolm X in there. They got everybody died that died up to today. They don't have Elijah Muhammad. They don't have Elijah Poole. They don't have none of that in there. There's no record. Now, we got a death certificate, but the government got better sense than to recognize the death certificate. They do not put him in the official biographies that they have. They don't put him in there based on that little jive death certificate because they know how many death certificates they have faked and got people out of the country. They know how many death certificates they faked in Germany to move the Jews down into Argentina and Brazil and say they were burned in ovens. See, they already know about the death certificate game. So that don't mean nothing. But they understand that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive. All of the stuff that they put out against Minister Farrakhan to try to say that he's not for real and all of that, don't you know that if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were not alive and Minister Farrakhan is traveling all over the world saying he is alive, don't you know they would have articles this long talking about this is a nut trying to say a dead man alive? They don't mention it. He go on interviews, he tell them that, they cut that part out. They don't even want to deal with it. If the man was dead, they say, prove he's alive. But Minister Farrakhan has offered to prove he's alive, and nobody will take the offer. We need a comforter. Nice word made up of two components. The COM means together or with. The root fortis means strong, as fortitude, fortify, or Fort Apache. Okay? Look what it's saying. See, you and I think of a comforter as just somebody that, oh, baby, it's going to be all right. No, that's a deeper word than that. A much deeper word than that. To be strong with somebody. It don't mean just to soothe their little pains and wipe their fevered brow. It means to be strong with them. Now, you know there's comfort in knowing you got somebody strong that's with you. But even beyond that, the New Testament, the manuscript that all of the Bible translators use as their basis, they translate it from the Greek. And the word that is used in the Greek New Testament is parakletos. That is the Greek word that they translate to mean comforter. Now, parakletos produces another English word that is closer to it. Simply paraclete. A paraclete. That's what that word comforter that they translate as comforter really is. It's talking about a paraclete. And paraclete, this prefix para, one of the meanings of it is to protect from or ward off. Okay? This is where you get the word parachute. The root shoot means fall. A parachute protects you from a fall. Parapet, meaning a wall at a fortress, comes from para plus the PET comes from a word that means your breast. Originally it meant those breast shields that they wore, and eventually it came to mean a fortifying wall. So, the root cleat comes from that root, meaning to call. To call. Now here you've got to ward off or protect and to call. Okay? Means a couple of things. Now, I'm not going into it. This thing could go, we could be here all day just dealing with this term. But fortunately, Brother Abdul Muhammad, our resident theologian, is preparing written papers just dealing with this one thing for us, because we need to really understand this comforter. We need to understand that role of Minister Farrakhan more than anything else that he's doing. And that's why Brother Jabil is preparing this paper, and he's going to be sending it out, and we're going to make sure that every last one of you who desires it gets copies of it in order for you to be able to study it thoroughly. Okay? But we just want to deal with two ways that this can be taken. First of all, it can mean to call you to protection, and it also can mean to protect you from another call that you don't need to be listening to. Okay? So we got the final call to protection. But if you remember the Holy Quran, the devil tells God himself that he didn't make us do anything. He only called and we came. So one of the jobs of the comforter is to immunize us against this call that can mean our destruction. Because that's a perfect defense. God can't punish somebody for calling you and you go to evil on their call. He got to deal with you on that. So Minister Farrakhan's job, one part of his mission is to make us immune to that wicked call that can absolutely lose us our salvation. And another thing is to call us to the protection of God against the most powerful enemy that's ever been on earth, who's angrier than he's ever been in his whole 6,000-year tenure. Okay. Let's get down to some basics. Now, in being the comforter, notice what we pointed out at the very outset. Jesus knew the job, but Jesus couldn't do the job, not because he was powerless to do it, but because it was not his job to do. Somebody else had the job. His job was to get that one ready to do the job. All right, I know some of you kind of waver on that. Some of you kind of get the idea that, well, Minister Farrakhan, see, now, soon as Wallace got in power, the first thing he did was he turned against his father and started trying to do his own thing. Well, I can tell you this. Minister Louis Farrakhan will never turn against our father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Okay? Now, I can tell you that standing here. And you can live to be 100,000 years old and you'll see that that will never happen. Okay? As he pointed out, I don't care how luscious a piece of fruit you become, you ain't going to get nowhere by trying to destroy the tree that produced you. Because once you destroy the tree, you gone. You begin to rot. Plus the tree can't produce no other fruit. That's why Imam Muhammad had to abolish the fruit of Islam. He might as well abolish it. It would have abolished itself because he was trying to destroy the tree. There are those who got upset when they noticed that those of us follow Minister Farrakhan and even Minister Farrakhan himself stop mentioning Master Farad Muhammad in our prayers. Stop mentioning the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in our prayers. Oh, there he goes. Minister Farrakhan prayed some prayers at Big Mountain that were immediately answered. Most powerful prayers I ever heard of in my lifetime. They brought about some powerful action. Okay? He did not mention Master Farad Muhammad. He did not mention the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And, dear Muslims, he did not mention Prophet Muhammad, which some Muslims think that it's a sin if you don't mention him. You don't have to mention him. He's not God. Allah is God. Understand me now. He's not fighting Prophet Muhammad, Master Farad Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's not the point. He is doing what all of them taught. Worship no one but Allah. And when you feel like you can't call Allah's name without mentioning somebody else's name, you're setting up an equal to God. Got Muslims who think they can't even say Allah unless they say Muhammad. But if you're a Mohammedan, no wonder white folks call you that. You're a Mohammedan, not no Muslim. Muslim believes in Allah as the Prophet himself did. So Minister Farrakhan did not mention any prophets in his prayer. You know, sometimes in prayers we mention Abraham, right? Yeah. Grant Muhammad success just as you granted Abraham success and grant followers success and all that. None of that. No prophet. He prayed directly to Allah with nobody in between. That's why his prayer was so powerful and why it was so successful. All right. No disrespect to our leader and teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's the highest of respect. Finally understanding what the man was trying to do with us. Jesus said, but when the Comforter is come, whom I will send unto you from the Father. Check that statement out. Jesus says, I'm going to send you a comforter from the Father. Ain't that pretty? Means he's coming in the power of the Father. I'm sending him. I'm preparing him. But when he comes to you, he's not coming just with what's coming from me. He's coming with the power of the Father, independent of me and anybody else. He says, even the Spirit of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify of me. Now look at that. Now you're beginning to see the picture of what's going on. He's saying my job, part of my job, was to get this one ready. And when he gets ready, I'm going away and I'm sending him to you. Now he's going to come, but he ain't going to come just in my power. He's coming with the power of the Father, and he's going to testify of me and the work that I did when I was among you. I know it's hard for some of y'all to take. Just do yourself a favor. You can't do us no favors, but just do yourself a favor. Don't disappear on us. Keep on coming. Keep on listening. We're going to get some of the tapes of Minister Farrakhan, some of the written material by Brother Jabril to try to get you ready. Remember the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Minister Farrakhan if he was faithful that he would give us the new teaching through Minister Farrakhan? Has he been faithful? All right. All right. Now these staunch, dyed-in-the-wool, Arabized Muslims, you're wondering, well, you're in the Bible, you're doing all that with Jesus. I mean, why you gotta y'all just dote on Jesus all the time. I mean, why aren't you in the Quran? If I go in the Quran, we have to deal with Jesus. Do you know that the key to the Holy Quran is not Muhammad? The key to the Holy Quran is Jesus. Did you know that? All right. When you go home, get your Quran. Turn to the 19th surah. The 19th surah is named Maryam, the mother of Jesus. There is no surah in the whole Holy Quran named after the mother of Muhammad. But there is a surah named for the mother of Jesus. And it is the 19th surah, and all of your scholars will tell you that the number that unlocks all the secrets of the Holy Quran is the number 19. Now, if the key to the Quran is 19, why is the 19th surah named after the mother of Jesus and not after the mother of Muhammad? And then when you get to the 19th surah, you go to the 30th verse. And in 19th surah, 30th ayat, Jesus for the first time reveals his prophethood, just as in 1930, Master Farad Muhammad revealed himself and who he was in America. You got to get with Jesus, Muslim. This is why the Muslim world is confused. This is why the Muslim world is in disarray. They are not dealing with the key. They can quote the Quran in Arabic forward and some of them backwards. Like every graduate from Al-Azhar University in Cairo. Don't care how many, they can make straight A's. They can't get a degree, an undergraduate degree even, from Al-Azhar until they come before a council and recite the Quran from beginning to end without error in Arabic. So now you got people like that. You got little children over there who can recite the Quran. But look at the condition of the Muslim world. See, you got something powerful. You got the most powerful thing on earth and in the universe. But having something powerful and not understanding not only can't help you, it can kill you. A 45 is a powerful gun. In the hands of a 10-month-old baby, it's dangerous to him. He'll kill himself and everybody else. If he ever, the only blessing is he might not be able to pull the trigger. And that's the same way with the Muslims in the Orthodox Muslim world. They would be dangerous if they just had a part of the key. They haven't got enough to really destroy the whole world, but they also haven't got enough to get themselves together. This is why, don't you know, this is why you got Muslims fighting Muslims? Right in countries, and then Muslim countries declaring war on other Muslim countries. Ain't no way you can understand the Quran the way it forbids a Muslim to raise his hand or even his voice at another Muslim, and you gonna fire a gun, fire a missile at your brother and talking about Allahu Akbar. You're Allahu Akbar lie. No Allah in you, no Islam in you when you seek to do harm to your brother. That's foreign to everything in the Holy Quran from cover to cover. You can take all 114 surahs. You'll never find anything in there to justify a Muslim murdering another Muslim, declaring war on another Muslim. You won't find it. Yet they're doing it. You got them consorting with enemies of Islam against each other. You got King Hussein of Jordan, who's linking up with Ronald Reagan in an attempt to help destroy Palestinian Muslims. No Muslim would do that. No Muslim would conspire with an infidel to destroy other Muslims. But you know what's missing? Jesus. Tell you, that is the biggest secret on earth. The secret of Jesus. The Christians don't understand nothing about it. That's why you got Christians fighting Christians. The Muslims don't understand it. And the Jews, if they understand it, they don't want to understand it. Those that understand it scares them to death, so they know what it means for them. Total destruction. They ain't got a chance. Those who can get a peek at what's happening with Jesus, with Elijah, with all that, hey, they don't tell it to the rest, even to the rest of the Jews. That's right. But they don't understand. All right. Get back to the Bible. Just want you to understand, just because we deal with the Bible, don't you think Jesus ain't important in the Quran? He is the Quran. He is the hadith of Prophet Muhammad. In all of the hadith, and there are 9 volumes of Bukhari, which is the most authentic one, and I forget how many volumes of Muslim, but Bukhari is the number one, the one that's guaranteed by everybody to be the most authentic. Got 9 volumes, and you can look through all 9 of the volumes. You will never, ever find Muhammad saying, "I shall return," like MacArthur said. You don't find that. You don't find Muhammad saying, "When the Mahdi comes, I shall be with him." And I know every hadith where he talks about the Mahdi coming, he says Jesus will be with him. When he talks about the breaking of the cross and the killing of the swine, he says Jesus will break the cross. Jesus will kill the swine. And Jesus will establish justice in the earth. That's what Muhammad said. Then why should you look for anybody other than Jesus? All right. But even Jesus tells you he's going to send you somebody else. Look what he said. "I have yet many things to say unto you, but you cannot bear it now." See? He didn't say he didn't know. This is what I was pointing out to you earlier. It's not that he didn't know what needed to be done and how to do it. It's just that it wasn't his job. Now look what he's telling. There are many things I have to say unto you, but you can't bear it when? Now. He didn't say you ain't ready for it, you never will get ready. He said you can't bear it now, which means at some point you'll be able to bear it. At that point it'll be all right for you to know it. But there's no sense in me telling it to you now. You couldn't even stand it. He says, so you can't bear it now. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. That's what the book says. Let me put that word up here, because that's very important to the rest of our lecture, which is only a few minutes. All. You know what all is? Entirety. Every bit. That's what all is. Now, if Jesus, the Jesus we're talking about, says that when this one comes that he will send from the Father, that he will guide you into all truth, that means that the Jesus didn't give you all truth. Because if he did, then the person coming behind him would be redundant or tautological or repetitious, whatever you want to call it, but he'd be reinventing the wheel. If Jesus already gave you all truth, as some Christians swear, Jesus didn't tell that lie, but some preachers do. If Jesus didn't give you all the truth, somebody else is coming to bring you all the truth, then you crazy if you think that the one coming behind Jesus ain't going to say nothing Jesus didn't say. He can't bring you the rest of it without bringing you something different. Ain't that clear? All right. We have some lessons that we've studied, memorized. These lessons, questions asked by Master Farah Muhammad, and in some cases the answer supplied, but in the other cases, Master Farah Muhammad pointed out that the answers that were there were the answers to the first term examination given by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they were near correct. Isn't that what it said? So they were very near correct. Okay. Now then, that was in the first term. You mean very near correct? Well, some of y'all read Ivory soap commercials and see them on TV. You see what it says about Ivory soap? It says 99 and 44 100% pure. But they couldn't say it was pure because pure is what? 100%. Right? In order to be pure, it's got to be 100%. As long as there's some percentage missing or a fraction of a percent missing, it is not pure. So therefore, they are not allowed by law to say it's pure when it ain't pure. So they tell you that it's very near pure, but it's not quite pure. Same way. Near correct is not correct. Near correct is incorrect. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Minister Farrakhan gave an excellent example last Sunday in Chicago. So if you have a mathematics, right? Islam is mathematics, right? Mathematics is Islam, can be proven in no limited time. And in Islam, we do everything how? Right and exact. Okay? Anything short of 100% ain't exact. He gave an example. He said, now, if you got a mathematical problem and the answer is 10, and you answered 9.999, what kind of mark you get? Do they mark it correct or incorrect? Tell it like it is. I don't care how close you get. If you ain't on it, it is not correct. Praise is due to Allah. All right. 40 years just to understand his mission. Well, if it took him 40 years to understand his mission, that means that for 40 years he was working without a thorough understanding. You say, but he was successful. Of course he was successful. Allah is with him. That's part of his proof that he's with him. That even if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did something that he didn't understand, Allah took care of it. That kills the gainsayers who holler that he's just a self-made leader and he's got the Almighty God with him, or he could not have been successful as he was. All right. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said later in his mission that if he had those same questions, you notice we never did get anything other than the first term examination. Now, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, according to his own words, if he had to answer those same questions a few years later, he would have had to have written volumes and not those little sheets of paper that we're running around with. That's how much he grew in understanding. That later on, he saw more into those than he saw at the time he was giving that examination. That means that it was wrong. It was not totally correct because it was not complete. There was something missing. And as he got to understand the missing ingredients, if he were to answer those same questions, look, I'll give you a little lightweight example that in no way compares. Now, December of 1963, I got a letter from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I have it right here. And he sent me 9 questions. And I thought all these years that this was a letter sent out to all the ministers in the nation for them to answer these 9 questions. Dear brother, will you please answer the following questions to the best of your knowledge and return them to me? Then he states the 9 questions. He says more questions will follow after the correct answers to the above have been received. So I diligently sat down, wrote these 9 answers. Now, of these 9 questions, 4 of them was about myself. 3 of them were about the devil, and 2 of them were about God. Now, that's a strange lineup. I don't quite understand it yet, so that's all I'm going to say about it. But I thought it rather strange when I saw it. That's the ratio of the question. More about me than the next amount about the devil, and the least amount of questions about God. Maybe he's telling us we need to learn them other things more before we can really understand God. I don't know. But anyway, the point is, I sat down December 26, 1963, and I wrote him the 9 answers to the question. Never heard any more about it. So, as I said, I had assumed, as I always tell you, it's bad to do. I had assumed that all the ministers in the nation got it. But as years went by, when I came back into the Nation of Islam, and I began to question those who used to minister at the same time I did, nobody had ever seen these questions before. So finally I got to Minister Farrakhan and Brother Jabril. They had never received, had never seen these questions before. So that hit me kind of strange. But anyway, when we met in Phoenix in November of 84, Brother Jabril reproduced these questions. And this same little examination was administered to all of the ministers in training in the nation. So without referring to my previous answers, I just went from my understanding at that time and I re-answered those same questions. Now I'm looking at the answers I gave in December 1963, and I'm looking at the answers I gave in November 1984, 21 years later, and I see a marked difference. I mean, it's different as night and day. Now, if that happens with my little pea brain, just imagine. Listen at me now. During that 21 years, I spent 13 of them out there wallowing in the slop in the gutter. And still, I can see the growth and the progress in my understanding. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on his mission every day of his life, all the way up to the time that he made the statement that he made. You can imagine how his understanding, living right, eating right, thinking right, praying right, treating folks right, doing all of that. You can see how from that day in the 1930s, all the way up to the 60s and 70s, you know how that righteous man would have to go. So you would have to understand that if he had to answer those questions today, the answers that you and I have wouldn't even seem to fit. Now, you may say, well, I just don't understand that whole reasoning behind God raising up a man, and then that man does something, then he has to go and somebody else has to come and all that. Well, look, brothers and sisters, any of you have ever watched concrete being poured, or some of you may have poured a little concrete. You know that before you pour the first concrete, you build a form. You get you some wood and you build a form. And you make that form in the shape that you want that concrete to wind up being in. Now you make the form and you pour the concrete. And then you let the concrete set. But the form has to hold that concrete in place until it reaches a certain consistency. But as soon as it reaches that consistency, you take the form away and the concrete stands on its own. You sister do the same thing with a cake. You can't just take cake batter and pour it in the oven. If you want a round cake, you put it in a round cake pan, don't you? If you want a square one, you put it in a square cake pan. Okay? Want a sheet cake, you put it in a cookie tin. I mean, whatever shape you want it, you put it in the form that you want it. Now, once the cake has firmed up, has become solid, you dump it out of the form. And it doesn't move, does it? It remains just like you wanted it, and the form is going on about its business. Well, that is the same way. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has a mission from God to shape us a certain way. But in the shaping, we have to go through 3 stages. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's job to prepare us for the second stage by completing the first stage. It is Minister Farrakhan's job to complete the second stage. And when the second stage is complete, you don't need anybody to show you how to complete the third stage, because the second stage makes you complete the third stage. All right? Very early. We're getting out early. So I'm just going to tell you what they are, and then you'll understand. In the condition that our people have been put in, and you heard my son Omar run it down to you very graphically, in the condition that we were put in, there were certain steps that had to be taken before we could become free men and women and stand up and be equal with the rest of the people of the earth. The first step, brothers and sisters, we had been so used, misused, abused, and bruised till there was nobody that we felt that we could trust and depend on. Everybody that had come forth that we had trusted had disappointed us. So the first step with the black man and woman in America was that they had to find somebody that they could depend on. They had to be convinced that everybody in the world is not so rotten that you ain't got a friend in the world. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, through his suffering for us, through his sacrifice for us, through his work for us, through everything he did for us, and his undying love for us, absolutely convinced black people, hey, there's somebody we can depend on. Okay? Now, once he had established that, he couldn't go to the next step. He established it so hard, brothers and sisters, until I used to say it myself. You know, I couldn't imagine a world without the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, he gave us a strength, but it also was a weakness. We were all leaning on him. Well, that was good because we never had anybody we trusted enough to lean on before. So he did that. Now, but he could never, brothers and sisters, the way we depended on that man, there's no way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad could have ever said to us, okay, now, I'm backing off, you'll do so, depend on yourself. No way. No, he had to do like you do when a baby's born, had to cut that umbilical cord. You know, you don't ease the umbilical cord, but you cut that bad boy, slip. It's all over. You ain't with mama no more, Jack. It's all over. Got to go for self. Okay? So he had to do that. Now, when he did that, I mean, brothers and sisters, we went to pieces, didn't we? We panicked. That's natural. You may say, well, he should have prepared. Papa had him in place. No, that ain't the way natural birth goes. You have been there 9 months secure and safe and warm and snug, knowing that mama gonna feed you, mama gonna breathe oxygen into you, mama gonna take care of it. All of a sudden, boom, you cut loose from mama. You don't immediately have any relief. That's why you holler, ah! What is this? What's happening? Somebody help me, please. I mean, you are scared to death. What in the world is this? It's cold out here. I'm wet and ain't nobody driving. What's the matter with y'all? You go to pieces. That's natural. That is the natural progression of life. So that's what he did. Now, Minister Farrakhan, this is why you see him making certain moves that he will not let us. And we intend to, we try to, we want to, we mean to do the same thing with him we did with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Hang on, ain't snarl, Jack. Not me. He's not going to let us do that to him or to ourselves, actually. Not going to let us do that. This is why you see certain things you say, well, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so, why don't Minister Farrakhan take care of it? No, Lordy, why don't you take care of it? That's what he's doing with us now. He's taking step 2. After you have learned that you can depend on somebody else, then the next step is to learn to depend on yourself. At the next step in your growth, okay? You trusted mama, but now the umbilical cord is cut. You panic, you went to pieces, but after a while, you know, mama goes on and nurse you, the nurse take care of you, the doctor, you say, well, there's some friendly folks around. But then after a while, mama gets tired of toting you on that backpack. You get tired of pushing that stroller, don't you? You don't hurry up and get out, she take you out. Start putting you down, come on. Why? She's ready for you to walk, Jack. You're getting fat and heavy. Yeah, because she's ready for you to use your own legs for a little bit. Man, stage in development. That's all it is. It's a stage in development. Then after a while, you can say, hey, yeah, I can do this myself. She stopped having to push the bottle in your mouth or whatever she puts in your mouth. Okay? Then she stopped having to put the spoon in your mouth. After a while, you sit up at the table, you eat for yourself. Okay? Now, You start thinking for yourself. You start making decisions for yourself. All this is part of growth. All this is part of development. This is what we're going through now. That's why the Bible always refers to us as the children of God. We got to develop just like children. It says that you can't enter the kingdom of God lest you come as a child. That's the way we came. First, totally dependent upon the parents. Then next, learning to depend upon ourselves. That's the second stage. And then comes the third stage. Now, after that child has been born, and after that child has been weaned, and after that child grows to a certain stage, something else comes in their mind. They stop being a child. They start thinking about getting married and having children of their own. Isn't that correct? That's a natural progression, isn't it? Little girl get tired of playing with dolls. She wanted to be real. Little boy wants somebody to start calling him daddy. Like he's been calling his daddy daddy. He wants somebody to call him daddy now. That's your last stage of growth, adulthood. We come. It says you got to come as a child. It doesn't say you stay a child. You got to come as a child. And one of the things a child does is grow into an adult. So we got to come just as children on the road to become an adult. So Minister Farrakhan is now working on stage 2, learning to depend on ourselves. Now, once we get that, then we don't need somebody to mold us in the third step. So we learn to depend on ourselves, then we become self-molded. At that point, then, we make the initiative, take the initiative. We make the decision. And you not only depend on yourself. This is the key. When you begin studying teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in depth, and the final thing that happens, and all of the prophecies bear witness to it, that we will wind up as the rulers in the earth. Says that. Bible, Quran, all of them. Even, what's his name? Gaddafi's Green Book says it. That's right. Everybody intelligent recognizes that we are going to be the rulers. So then look at the 3 steps that you go through in life. You go from someone that you can rely and depend on. The second step is that you become someone who can depend on themselves. And the third and greatest step is when you become someone that others can depend on. See? That's a long journey, isn't it? From dependence to independence, and then to somebody that others depend on. That's a great journey too, ain't it? I mean, can't you imagine how good somebody's got to feel to go through that entire journey and understand what they're going through? I went from helplessness to a helper. From helplessness to a helper. Couldn't even help myself. Now I'm helping other people. That's a good step, isn't it, brothers and sisters? Praise is due to Allah. So, this is what Minister Farrakhan is doing. He is the comforter. He is the strong one that's with us. The strong one working with us to make us strong. Not for us to sap his strength and draw his strength and go on for centuries with that kind of thing. The next leader, you sap off of him. That's not what he's here for. He's here to comfort us for real. Be strong with us so we can be strong on our own. This is why, as I said earlier, and I want you to notice this and get geared up to begin to work on this. And they say, well, you know, I wrote Minister Farrakhan, and I reported so-and-so and so-and-so was a problem. He didn't do nothing about it. Or I talked to Minister Farrakhan, and I said so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. He said, yeah, brother, that really needs to be corrected. Sister, you're absolutely right. He ain't done nothing about it. No, all he did was assure you that you were thinking in the right direction. Now it's up to you. That's right. He's good for counsel to let you know, yes, your analysis is correct. You have drawn the correct conclusion. I agree with you, brother. I agree. I've seen him say it to them. Brother, you couldn't be righter. I couldn't agree with you more. And walk away. And folks stand there, well, what you going to do? What you mean? What am I going to do? You already figured it out. Why don't you do it? Yeah, it's great for somebody that used to be a Negro, isn't it? For somebody to put that kind of, first of all, to make you able to bear that kind of responsibility and then to trust you with that kind of responsibility. That's great, ain't it? But remember, we still got a long way to go. But baby, we've come a long way, haven't we? I'm thankful to Almighty God Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad raising up Minister Louis Farrakhan, the comforter. So, brothers and sisters, that's it for today. As I say, I want you to study this, and when I get the material from Brother Jabril, I'm going to make sure that all of you get it. And we need to go into deep study on this one portion of his mission. And I say his mission. Okay? In my opinion, because I haven't talked to him about this particular point, but from my study, in my opinion, he has completed the portion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's mission that he was supposed to complete. He has gotten the Nation of Islam up off the ground and has got it back functioning at full capacity. I think that that's as much as he was supposed to do in the way of rebuilding what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had. At this point, now he's got to get on his mission that he got from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave him a job to do. But before he could do his job, he had to first get things back in place so he'd have a foundation from which to do his job. The foundation that was destroyed by our enemies. He had to first rebuild it. That's what the book tells you about, the rebuilding of the temple. Some of y'all in masonry, you talk about that. You have to rebuild the temple. And then after the temple is rebuilt, then you can go into the rest of the work that has to be done. He has rebuilt the temple. Now he's on about his mission. And I just hope and pray, all our brothers and sisters, that none of us get lost. None of us that are hanging on. And that's what we're doing. We're hanging on. There ain't nobody got such a firm grip that can't fall off. No, we hanging on. Hang on. Whatever you do, hang on. And I hope and pray, Allah, that none of us get lost in the process of shifting gears. That's what it amounts to. Same vehicle, same road, and same destination. But you got to shift gears. All right? Thank you, brothers and sisters. May Allah bless all of you. I'd like to know how many of you are visiting with us for your first time. May I see your hand? Very good. Those of you who are visiting with us, even if it's not your first time, but specifically those who are visiting for the first time, and those who may have visited before but just haven't made a commitment, but you might be ready now to make a commitment. And I'd like to know how many of you do. Ones who just came the first time today, and those who may have come a few more times and all that. How many of you are ready today to make that commitment to yourself, to your God, and to your people, to get behind Minister Farrakhan and help us to raise up this dead nation and make it the rulers of the earth? I'm going into detail on it because I want you to be serious. I don't want to see some folks come up here because what everybody else was doing, and everybody was looking at me, and so I went on and did it and all that sort of stuff, and then you leave here and we don't ever see you no more. I'm not interested in that. That's nothing. We're trying to build a nation. We need our people. We need somebody who's going to work with us to help us get the rest of our people before this man destroys all of them out there with crack and everything else. Okay? So I want you to be serious. That's why I want you to know what you're doing. So those of you who are absolutely serious, that yes, you're ready to make a commitment. You're ready to really work for black people and go out and get the rest of our people, help us to get them on the right track, help us to get away from what God is, because when God puts it on white folks, it's coming on us too if we ain't in the right place. You read the story of Moses, you'll see that. I'm not going to teach that today. But you see the same thing, that what God put on the unrighteous, if the righteous ain't in the right place, they get messed up too. So how many of you are ready to make that commitment and come with us today and become a part of this great movement to save and exalt black people? Could I see your hands? Those of you who are ready to do that, stand up, please. If you haven't already made a commitment before, stand up. Okay. What I want you to do, brothers, come right up this way. I think you've already made your commitment, brother. So you can have a seat. The other two brothers, come up this way, and get a card from this brother as you pass by. Card and a pencil, if he has for you. Yes, come right up here with me, brother. Have a seat right over here, and you can begin filling out the card. The brothers who got the cards, come right up this way. Oh, okay. All right. Now, if any of you who are sitting on the fence or who are bashful, and you actually have made a commitment but you're shy, as soon as the meeting's over, you can come right up here where this brother is, and I'll be right back in here because I'm coming back in to talk to him, and I'll come back in and talk to whoever's over here with him to fill out one of these cards. Because I'm going to, from this point on, those who accept Islam and become a part of this family, I'm going to give you my personal attention until you are well entrenched in the ranks. Because we have, at this point in our development, the enemy is out to destroy us so bad until I am not going to turn you loose in here when I know the man got some folks in here whose job it is to drive you back out. So as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me, I'm putting into practice something. Yes, sir, brother. Bring this brother a card. See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me something years ago. I'm just now putting it into practice. He told me, but it wasn't for that time. But I know, I see now what time it is. He gave me an example of how to do this. He said when a baby is born, when the doctor delivers that baby, he does not immediately turn that baby loose. The doctor examines that baby and keeps that baby under his care until he's sure that baby is ready for the next step. Then the doctor does not even turn the baby over to the mother. The baby can't even sleep in the same room with the mother. Oh no. The doctor then turns the baby over to a nurse who is trained. And the nurse cares for the baby. And what's happening with the baby all that time? The body, the immune system in the body is building up certain immunity so that it will have enough immunity that when it does get out and get exposed to those germs won't affect it. Because the germs are there anyway. They're already there. You can't do nothing to get rid of the germs. So what you have to do is let the baby develop in a clean environment so that when the germs hit them, they'll bounce right off. So he told me to do the same thing when we reach the point where we are today. To be just like the doctor. When these brothers and these sisters accept Islam, I'm going to deal with them. And when I feel that they are sufficiently immunized that they can go to the next step, I'll turn them over to the captains and the secretary and stuff. They'll deal with them. And only after they have reached a certain stage of immunity where we feel they can deal with anybody, then we'll turn them loose in the crowd. Okay? All right. So that's why we're taking the new tack that we're taking today. So, at this time, brothers and sisters, we get to another portion that's very important. We have a few brief announcements to make, and we have one that's not so brief. At least we hope it ain't brief. And that's the charity announcement. And the reason I say I hope it ain't brief, because I hope that your charity ain't brief. Brother James will explain to you that we do have some problems which need to be solved. We've been working on them. Those of you who've been here, we've been working on them. You're doing great. This is the cap off. Today we have to finish up on the travel expenses that we have foregone for something like 4 months while we were doing other things that now have to be paid. We have been doing it. The MGT has done a great job. They got something that they're delivering to us today individually, apart and aside from the public donation. So I think that's very good. That's a blessing. And I know that Brother Sterling would have worked something with the FOI, but I got him jumping. So I had him in Boston last night, and he got back 5 o'clock this morning. I sent him to Philadelphia. So he hasn't had a chance to work with you like you can. So brothers, don't y'all feel bad that y'all can just do what you want to do right here from the floor today. But we do have those expenses. Brother James will explain them to you. And so I thank you and look forward to seeing you all the time. And next week, brothers and sisters, the subject is going to deal with the lawsuit that Minister Farrakhan has filed against Reagan and Schutz and all them boys. I'm going to bring the lawsuit, and I'm going to go through the lawsuit with you because the minister wants all of us to understand the basis of his suit, exactly what he's doing. And he's not, don't ever think that Minister Farrakhan thinks for a minute that there is justice in white folks' hearts. Especially when you look on every bench in every state and on the federal level, you see 9/10 Jews. There ain't no way in the world that they're going to be trying to give him no justice. So we want you to see what's in the suit and the effect that it's got to have. Don't care how it come out. Although, it ain't beyond the power of Allah to make us win. Judges wake up next month and say, what do? We ruled in favor of Farrakhan? It can happen. It happens, It won't be their doing, but it could happen. And the reason I take that is because if they do rule in our favor, I don't want none of y'all to get software and think, listen, some devils are all right. No, they ain't. No, Allah make them do. and they do any good. All right? So, brothers, you all sit right there. As soon as the meeting's over, I'll be back to talk with you. And, in fact, we'll invite you in my office, and we'll have a chat and everything. And the rest of you, he'll give you instructions. Brother James will give you instructions as to everything else that goes. See, we got the two little young brothers back there with the charity buckets. Now, that's a good ploy. Whichever one of y'all thought that up, that's good. That's why when they have these fun drives, you ever notice they always send children around to sell candy and cookies? Y'all got to give it up to the children, ain't you? That's pretty good. I don't know whose idea that was, but congratulations. Yes, sir. Very good. So thank you, brothers and sisters. And at this time, I turn the meeting into the hands of our Secretary Pro Tem, Brother James. So I greet you. Assalamu alaikum. Was it warm out?